What's up?
DG, what it is.
Man, good Friday. Good Friday.
Good
Great
Friday.
Friday, I would say.
Yeah.
How's
Oh man.
you're in New York, right?
Yes, I am. Well, technically North Jersey, but greater New York area, the hot spot where things are really crazy. But I'm good. I'm inside, staying inside. I've been inside for quite some time now, so don't really have to see it too much outside of when you tune into the news and things like that.
Okay, okay. And how long is your quarantine up until? So Chicago's is until the end of May.
Yeah.
How long do you guys
So
have
that
till? Same?
Um, yeah, just about the end of May, and like from work as well. It's like about now. Now I think it's officially May 15th, but like I kind of go by work. Work
Okay.
we're not back until June 1st, so um, yeah, going by
I
that.
love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for joining. Be great, good to great. Drop any where you guys are tuning in from. That would be dope to see where you guys are coming and what areas of the world, so we can kind of tailor it to you guys too. But I have the great Colin here. We met actually in Antigua for the
Yeah.
first time that I went to CDE, and CDE is Colin Devon Events. I know I'll let Colin introduce himself more, but this beautiful background that you see right there is not any cardstock or those Shutterstock photos. They were taken on Antigua trips, and so Colin, I want you to introduce yourself, give us a little bit of your background and what you do now.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. My name is Colin Devon Williams. Uh, I, by day, am a researcher, author, race expert. The work that I do, I work with an organization called Rise. I'm a senior director of curriculum, and we essentially use sport as a way to bring people together and to address issues about race and race relations. So we use sport as this vehicle to create social change. And then by night, I am the CEO of CDE, and I curate sort of the best group travel vacations around to Antigua, the place that my people are from, my family's from. So that's me in a nutshell. But we'll dive into that a little bit more.
So what made you want to have like a travel group, right? Like what told you like, you know what, like I want to bring people back to my home country.
Oh man, so I did not want to have a travel group, right? That was not my intention. It was not my idea. Um, I think, interestingly enough, we're talking about being great, but I just kind of wanted to be normal.
Hmm.
As a young kid growing up in New York, I was the anchor baby. So my parents came to the US in '87, pregnant with me, just trying to get the best education possible. And they didn't have much money. And so education was the only way. They ended up sending me back to Antigua. So I was living this like life between Antigua and New York because my parents couldn't afford to raise an infant. So long story short, fast forward, I ended up, being really focused in school, getting a good education, going to the University of Pennsylvania, meeting some really dope people there. But when it was time for me to graduate, my parents had already left the country and went back to Antigua. Um, so when I was finishing my PhD, also at the University of Pennsylvania, I decided, you know what? I'm tired of having to celebrate sort of my accomplishments either with my family or with my friends. So CDE year one was really just an opportunity to bring people together, my family and friends, and celebrate this accomplishment, right? So the celebration piece has really been about accomplishments. I grew up in the church, really sheltered, so I wasn't like partying like that in high school. But in college, it was like meeting so many people from so many different places and really just having these social experiences where I get to meet awesome people like you, Brittany, for example, and establish these connections. So really about celebrating these experiences, and that turned into something that other people wanted to be a part of, right? So
Hmm.
the first year was 2015, and there were about 30 people or so. And again, just really close friends. And one of the people on that trip was connected to someone at Time Magazine that said, "Hey, I really, really think this story is like amazing. Do you mind if I tell it in this space?" And I was like, "Sure." And she's like, "Yeah, it's Time Magazine." I said, "Oh, okay, not all right, not a big deal. We can do that." Um, And then I didn't think about this initially, but hundreds of thousands of views later, right? Hey, this
Mm-hmm.
looks amazing. When are you doing this? When is this happening again? And really, it was genuinely just a one-time thing. Me, friends, and family, and not as an offering to others, because it wasn't a one-time thing. I had friends that were coming back to Antigua one at a time, two at a time, but like very casually, right? And I said, well, after some time, I was like, you know what? People really want this thing. I really love my island. I can introduce them to it. Why not? So I took that why not approach, and I did it again the next year. But again, thinking, oh, I'll do it one more time, but it's not a thing I'm going to keep doing. And
Mm-hmm.
then grew to 55. And then the jump from year 2 to year 3, from 55 to 125, was like, okay,
Ooh.
this is significant growth. And I could do more, but I don't feel comfortable yet, because I also had to maintain the quality as we
Right.
grew, right? Thinking about scaling. So took my time in that way for sure. And then went from 125 to 175. And then by year 4, having, a couple years under my belt, feeling confident, knowing who my team was and how they moved, made the jump from 175 people to 500 people this past October.
That is a huge accomplishment. How many people can scale from 55 to 500 in a matter of years, right?
Yeah,
That's
I,
that's huge. And do you do all this
yeah.
planning and all the logistics by yourself?
Um, by myself is a tough term. I don't have a full out roster, but I have people that I work with in a number of different ways that fulfill different needs, right? So I do the brunt of the work, but my payment platform, so when they do a lot of work for me behind the scenes in terms of collecting money, in terms of crafting emails, communication, data tracking. I have my director of operations and movements, Kelvin, in Antigua, who's on the ground organizing my transportation. Because when you think about Antigua as an island, right? So Antigua is really small. There are about 100,000 people or so. There is not a bus system that exists that can move 500 people around the island at a given time, right? So there was no one that I can
Mm-hmm.
call. So I essentially had to create that myself with the folks that I knew. And having Kelvin as like my right hand, who's been there from the beginning, was really able to help in that way. Then just other local vendors, folks that I work with, Chatterbox, who made these amazing chains, my
Right.
bro LeVar, who made the hat that Brittany has on, just a ton of really talented local folks. But then in the U.S. side of things, it's just the people that show love, right? So when I think about the team, these people aren't necessarily even officially on a roster, but they have influence. So when they move, people move with them. So when they
Mm-hmm.
pull up, people pull up as well, right? So one person I can think about like that is Patty. She is a New Yorker, part of a group chat that I was in, and I don't know what she says to people, but her referral game is on point, right? So when she shows up to CDE, it's another 20 people showing up just because she's there, and she gets a free trip because of that, right? Part of what we
Yep.
do is we reward people that help grow the brand, help grow the business. So if you come on a trip, you have a good time, you refer someone and they come, then you get $100 off for every person up to a free trip.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And if you guys want more information about the trip, you can either screenshot this live or even go to his tag down in the pinned comments, Colin Devon events. And one thing I wanted to highlight, Mish put this in the comments, is police escort upon landing was litty, right? Like last year, he literally shut down all, it seemed like he shut down all the Antigua streets, and we had just like lines of buses and police escorts taking us to the resort. That was so awesome.
Yeah, so a little bit about that. I cannot leave out my biggest partner in the Antigua and Barbuda Tourism Authority, with my role as a tourism ambassador, that actually was bestowed upon me on Brittany's first trip back in 2018. So thanks for being a part of that experience. What we really decided to do was that my trip was creating so much attention and buzz around Antigua in general, that tourism wanted to be involved and think about ways that they can enhance the experience to keep me
Mm-hmm.
bringing my peers back, right? So like, why is Brittany going to come back to Antigua for a second or third year if she's already been in there all these other places? And we decided, well, we're going to give Brittany things that she probably won't experience when she goes to other places, right? So folks that come on our trips, this year, for example, when they landed, expedited customs, not having to go through the typical screening, having a welcome party when arriving, having government officials at the airport to give us cocktails, stepping outside, having that police escort to not be stuck in traffic, right? These are the small details, the considerations that me being a local, me living there, and having those experiences allows me to think about and anticipate in advance to make sure that things are seamless, right? So once you pay CDE, you don't have to reach in your wallet in Antigua because everything from transportation to drinks to food, accommodations, everything's accounted for.
It's paid for. If you guys are in this chat and you've been to CDE before in one of the years, please put what's the most enjoyable part of your trip that you liked. I think that's some good feedback too, because a lot of people like to see like what's the best part that you like from the trip, and drop it in the comments.
Try to keep it slightly appropriate. Thanks.
So a lot of people too, while people drop in comments, people always think when you travel, right? Like I'm single, because a lot of people, I'm sure when they see your videos are like, man, this is like a spring break experience, right? People are getting litty, a lot of stuff is happening. So do you mostly have singles that go there? Do you have couples, or like, can you tell me about that type of experience?
Yeah. So we have both. I think, as Brittany alluded to, I often get people reaching out to me, and it's not just about singles or couples, but it's all types of things about who people think are accepted at CDE, right? It's like, oh my goodness, I'm from another country. Like, are we invited? Or I've had guy friends say, hey, bro, I don't have an 8-pack. And all the guys on your page have 8-packs. Like, are guys without 8-packs allowed to be at CDE? And it's like, first and foremost, CDE is for everybody, right? Whatever your vibe is, you're going to find it because the people are so diverse that you just have so many dope people that you have this opportunity to connect with over these really intimate 5-6 days. So what was the question? Where were we going with this one?
Just talk about singles, couples, like, is it inclusive?
Couples, right? So, yeah, so I would say if I had to put a number on it, 95% of the attendees are singles. But I think the couples that come have really transformative experiences, and it really helps with their relationship, with their development, with trust, with communication, and so many different things, right? In fact, we it's not publicly released, but we've had like a little couple series, CDE couple series, where we do things together and get together and support each other as, you know, young professionals that are in that space. There are folks that have, and I'll give you a couple examples of the dynamics, right? So in 2017, had two folks, one I went to school with, another that I didn't know, come on the trip. They met in 2017. They started talking. They came back to CDE in 2019, last year, 2 years later. A week after the trip, he proposed, and they're getting married during the same weekend, their anniversary weekend, which is CDE weekend, in October of this. Well, that's the plan of this year, Lord willing. So that's one example. I have another couple that were together already, but they came in 2017, the same year, for the first time. And they loved Antigua so much, they ended up coming back again last year in 2019 as well. The host resort that we'll be staying at, the Royalton, they are actually getting married there in October of this year as well.
Wow.
Taking them back to Antigua, someplace that was really special to their love, and they're going to sort of celebrate that monumentous time together. So I'm really excited about that. And then for the people that aren't looking to get married or find the love of their life, right? Like, it's a bunch of other people that are young professionals. They have disposable income. They're like-minded in the fact that they're traveling, they're adventurous, they're traveling the world, oftentimes in the same age range. So they're, you know, it's really up to you. Again, it's what you're about, right? So if you go with, you know, a certain lens, you're going to see some of those things. And if you go with another lens, you'll see what you want to see. Yeah.
Right. And that's, I think, a great thing that you hit on, right, is that, like, people who go are all professionals, right? Young professionals. We don't just go and we travel and have fun. I mean, some people do that as like a full-time career that go there, which, you know, hats off to them. But there's others that we have full-time jobs working back at home. So it's great to connect and have travel buddies. So if you're in New York, you're in Philly, you're in Cali, you're in Atlanta, there's people now that you met from traveling that now you have that network that you could network on, business-wise, travel-wise, all types of aspects. And those people, like you said, could become your partners, your best friends. whoever. And we have a
That
couple.
that networking is it's crazy. Like the amount of stories, the amount of texts that I get that people send me like, hey, I was just here. I had on my CDE hat and I was almost in a jam and somebody looked out for me, or I was in this place and I got stranded. Like the network is incredible. It's incredible. That's probably the biggest takeaway for me is like this trip has opened up so many doors to do so many other things. So
And a couple in the comments, we have somebody from at Alchemist says Earthing. Every event was great. She is Noble said that the foam party was my fave, and she went in 2019. And then Misha, Jouvert, T-shirt, Mas, Yacht Day, yeah, all of those were litty. And for those who don't know what Jouvert is, can you explain the concept
yeah.
of Jouvert?
So Juve is from an American lens, I would say imagine like the dirtiest party that you've been at in terms of like the condition of your clothing, right? So the attire that you wear is things that you plan on throwing away, that you know are going to get paint, powder, water, and numerous other things depending on how creative people get. So this year we had Juve at a historic fort in Antigua, sort of had that entire space. And in addition to Caribbean music like soca and calypso, reggae, etc., that party starts at dawn, right? So it's at the beginning of the morning, and we were out there at like 3 a.m. and we were partying as the sun comes up. And then when the sun comes up, you sort of look around and you realize you're covered in a whole bunch of different things. And then a lot of people just literally walk from the party into the ocean to wash off, right? You walk from the party into the ocean to wash off, grab a towel, and then you get on a bus to head back to the resort. But it's a big part of Caribbean culture, part of the carnival experience. When I bring people to Antigua, because I'm at times not doing it during carnival weekend, I want to give them a taste of that. So added Juve last year, this year thinking about adding another mass. So having both Juve and mass to make up for some of the carnivals that we've lost this year due to COVID.
Wow, non-stop partying. There's events all the time. And for you guys that haven't been to a CDE yet, so every day he gives you literally a whole itinerary of events and what to wear, right? So like on a boat day, everybody wears white, right? So you have professional photographers, people taking photos of you. So if you don't have any professional photos of you while you're traveling, come to CDE. When he says it's really all inclusive, you get swag, you get photos, you meet people. Like it's always great. And we have
bring your best drip. Bring your best drip. Just do it, because the photos are going to be fire. They're going to want to look good. You never know where they're going to end up, whether that be Essence or BET or whatever. So like, once you pay me, the only thing else you got to worry about is make sure your fits are right, because it's always a movie.
Yes. And Ferragamo on here said, facts. I'm on a crisis nurse assignment in New York. The CDE fam has always been so supportive and hospitable. That's awesome.
Love to hear
So
it.
how has it been being like a hybrid entrepreneur, right? Pretty much having your day job and your night job. Do you struggle with that ever? Because it seems like handling 500 plus people is tough, right?
Yeah. It's very difficult. I think there are things that make it bearable for me and like make it not feel like so much work, because I really enjoy the craft of curating something, but it's really difficult. In fact, I think time is just really the obstacle, right? So my day job is not like, it's a demanding day job. I travel for work, so I'm on the road probably 2 days out of the week for my day job, not including any of my CDE travel stuff. I'm around a lot of high profile people in the sports industry. So I have deliverables that are due to the NFL, the NBA, and folks like that. So it's a daunting and time-consuming day job, and then to manage something else of this nature really took a lot out of me last year. I think one of my lessons learned is that like when you care about something, you hold it really deeply and closely to you. And one of my things is like I have to like continue to build the team, continue to lean on others, allow them to step up and help and assist, so that I'm not bogged down. But I think one of the best things that sort of came out of the success of CDE last year, and the lack of time, was me sort of betting on myself and going to my day job and saying, hey, I am doing this thing that wasn't supposed to be a side hustle. Now it is, and I'm going to need to renegotiate my contract so I have more time so I can like actually sleep this year and actually, you know, go on more dates with my girlfriend, like have time for family and things like that. So that ended up working out really well. So part of like one nugget from this, I would say, is bet on yourself and believe in what you can do. When I spoke to my CEO about my desire to adjust my work schedule and calendar in order to spend more time focused on some of these entrepreneurial pursuits, she was super supportive, and she understood who I was and as a person holistically. And she's a Black woman, so shout out to y'all. That's a blessing to have a Black woman CEO. But yeah, like really had to negotiate that time management piece, because that's been probably the most difficult part, right? There not being enough time.
And then what other struggles do you think that you faced in growing your business? I know everybody thinks, right, like all they see is your Instagram, right? And everything looks all peachy, sunshine and rainbows. Like you just put this all together and you don't go through any struggles, or there isn't anything like that has happened. And also, like, I know you talked about you've done CDE for a while, so it's not like this is something for you that happened overnight. What type of struggles do you have in the travel industry and in this type of event?
I would say struggle is the core of this, right? I would say like struggle. This came through struggle. It was the first CDE was in response to the struggle, right? To making it out of the struggle to some extent. I would say the biggest struggle that I have faced most recently has been the low expectations cast upon a young person of color, a young male person, young American. Like, I have spent 4 years walking into rooms and telling people what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it and how I'm going to execute on it. And for those years, they would look at me and tell me that it's conjecture, that it's not going to come to fruition, that I can't repeat it. Oh, you brought 125 people this year. You can't bring 175 next year. So dealing with hotels and them trying to judge us and pigeonhole us and putting us in certain light is very interesting, because when they do the research and figure out the type of people that we are, they feel silly, frankly. But yeah, I would say low expectations, some of them stemming from racism, some of them stemming from ageism, right? And then seeing the way that things shift once you sort of move and operate in a certain way. So I would say, anecdotally, to make it a little bit more clear, I did not necessarily always believe that 500 people was the model that I was going to go to. So 2019, 500 people was not hey, I'm going to grow it to this scale. That became a strategic move after I recognized between 125 and 175, the amount of respect that I wanted to command was not there yet. And I said, hey, I'm going to have to do something that's so dramatic that people are going to have to listen to me now, right? That like when I step into the room, it's going to be like, nah, you need to have a conversation with this dude. Like, he doesn't sound like an Antiguan, but they say he is, and blah, 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 blah. But like all those questions is like, men lie, women lie, numbers don't, right? He brought 500 people here. There were big time names that they knew about that were here. So the respect is there. Now it's like, okay, CDE asked for police escort. Let's get the police escort. They asked for X, Y, and Z. Let's make that happen.
I love that. Because now it's just like you said, right? You can't lie on results. Results are results. And yes, people can project, but now you have a string of years where you had success and major success. So now it's just like, all right, well, so tell me what you've done whenever you're talking to that person, right? It's like, you know, what qualifies you.
And or even people that like, so after the Firefest documentaries came out, people were like, yo, bro, like, isn't this like what you do? Like, are you one of those guys? And it's just like, well, it's not quite the same because this has happened 4 years already now. But yeah, even that was something that I had to combat, right? It was like fraud in the industry. It's like, oh, am I is someone just going to try to take my money and serve me peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in Antigua?
Right.
But yeah.
Now, what if somebody wants to come to CDE, but like they don't have friends to come with, right? They're coming by themselves and
Ooh.
they're kind of like afraid. Because I know a lot of people, even though it's a group, people always think, okay, it's 500 people, it's going to be cliquish, right? Some people are going to have their
Yeah, yeah,
friends,
yeah,
and like
yeah,
if I
yeah,
come
yeah.
down there, I'm still going to be alone. What would you tell that person?
So interestingly enough, going back to your question about struggle, right? I would say that CDE started out of struggle so much that when I built the model, I thought about my poorest, brokest friends, my friends that were like the most antisocial, right? So it's like, how do I create an experience that people that are traveling by themselves, that don't know people in the group? And I was thinking about that from that 30-person perspective, right? Starting
Hmm.
really small and then sort of crafted that and continued to work in that way as it grew. So someone that's coming from, we had someone that pulled up solo from London last year, someone that came solo from Trinidad last year. And we think about all these things, right? So there's a group me that exists from the moment you get accepted into the trip. You get a link to join a group me, and there you get to meet hundreds of other young people and connect and start to bond. If you're coming solo, by the time you get in that group chat, a couple hours later, you feel like you already know people. But you also have live events and opportunities leading up to the trip, right? So partner with people that throw dope events in New York, like Dope Barbecue and Mixie Brunch, and have opportunities for folks to come together in real life and in person to not just talk in this chat, but like meet each other and say, oh, you know what, you're cool. I need a roommate. Do you have a roommate? So really create this opportunity that by the time that we get there, some of that friendship forming has already begun. And then by the time we leave, we're family.
So we got a question too that says, "When's the next get down?" So I guess that's when's the next event that you are having. Well, I mean, I don't know now because of quarantine. So
Right, right. So right now, the next event is October 29th to November 3rd. We are still on. Fingers crossed that everything works out. If not, we're going to postpone and everyone's funds will be transferred to the next trip. But right now, the next event is October 29th, Halloween weekend in Antigua for CDE Antigua, the 6th edition.
why do you think people keep coming back to Antigua? I mean, I have my own reasons. I know other people do too. But why do you think people keep coming back for these trips?
Um, I think there are a number of reasons, right? So one is I refuse to sacrifice the quality to make more money.
Hmm.
So I know other folks. I've been in the industry. I've been on group trips myself, and I see times where people cut corners or do things because now it's like, oh, I got to make this turn a profit, or this is my full-time job. For me, it's like, one, I take pride in what I do. So before the money piece, like I want to be able to be invited on a podcast, on an IG live like this, and have my head held high about what the product that I'm creating. So I make sure that the right ingredients are always there.
Hmm.
And then two, I really think about what people are saying, right? Like, so I have these conversations regularly. It's like, yo, I know you came to Antigua last year, but how can I get you back this year? What is it that's going to make, what's that stimulus, right? That's going to make you do X, Y, or Z. And people are like, can't do it. They're like, yo, bro, if you got this comedian there, or if you see her cakes, if she pulls up, there's no way I can't come back, right? And it's like, if you keep bringing these dope people with jobs and 401ks that are also like really fun, like how can I not be there?
Right.
One of the things that I think that's been great is that I've also explained this to like I've also explained this to the tourism authority. So I'm like, hey y'all, like in terms of our relationship, part of why I'm making these asks is because I've got people that are someone this year, if they come in 2020, it'll be their 5th year, like 5 out of 6 years, right? And it's like, I need to make sure that we keep doing things that make Antigua so unique that it feels like home. Because I'm not inviting you to Antigua for you to come for a trip. I'm inviting you to Antigua so you can fall in love with it, so you can build a house there, and so you can continue to go back and affect the economy in some positive way.
And that's I think a good transition, right? So how do you think that CDE is affecting the travel industry, and like what are your goals in terms of trying to change the economy, even specifically in Antigua?
Ooh, this is that's a surprisingly tough question, right? I think it's hard to ever determine causality and give yourself too much credit for something. But there are a lot of trends that I've seen since the Time Magazine feature, right? So I have been, again, taking people to Antigua back and forth, but like a lot more Black travel groups have formed, right? We've seen them over and over. A lot of brands have come about, sort of just in the travel industry and space overall. We have in Antigua for the past 3 years been the top Caribbean destination. The group of 500 that we went to Antigua with last year was the largest group of tourists to travel to Antigua, not by a boat. So by air travelers, we're the largest group in Antiguan history, and probably the largest group of Black people traveling that wasn't on a slave ship. Like we set some records that I didn't know were records, but things that just came along with the process. But I think what's important is that it's allowing people to be creative, allowing people to do things that they would normally do, to think outside of the norm. I know it has for me, because this wasn't an industry. I didn't go to hospitality school. I didn't study this. And I think it's really opening up folks' eyes to like our limitless potential, and what we can achieve when we set our mind to something and when we care about it, right? So I also think outside of just like the economy, because we have contributed now over $1 million to Antigua's economy, between the 2018 and 2019 trip, over $1 million. And the thing that I think from an impact standpoint is the Antiguan pride that I have seen from my people, from family members, from folks that I don't know and that I do know, right? So that shows up in a number of different ways. I have cousins, older or younger, that I haven't spoken to or seen in years, that'll send me a message, "Hey, cuz, just want you to know I'm watching you from afar, so proud of you. Antigua flag, Antigua flag, Antigua flag." Seeing the Antigua flags on the shade room, seeing on the Essence, just stuff like that. And like people that are just like, thank you for putting our little country that people don't know about on the map, and helping people fall in love with it. So that's really the mission and the goal.
And when you go, people now know how to pronounce Antigua. I think I used to call it Antigua or something like that before even. So I was like, they were like Antigua.
I used to correct people, and I was like, you know what? It'll be better when somebody in Antigua corrects them. So I'll just let them get there and then have it done there.
How has quarantine affected anything with your travel? I know you just said, right, if anything goes wrong with quarantine, you're going to refund people back or like push it off to the next time that you push off Antigua, but it's going to happen, knock on wood.
Yeah.
But how has quarantine affected what you're doing now? Have people been like afraid to travel and afraid to sign up to go on this trip?
So I think there are different segments of travelers, right? So let me start here. So I think how it's been impacting me, I think I've had to really just plan everything out from every different angle. Again, think about clients and their concerns. I had to become a lawyer for a couple minutes, force majeure, and talking through documents and really understanding all the liability and insurance pieces, because this was the first time, fortunately to some extent, right, but also unfortunately that this became so relevant. I'm lucky enough that my trip is later in the year, because friends of mine had trips that were scheduled in March and April, and they had to cancel with a much shorter window. At least I have some flexibility to think about, prepare my travelers. And I think overall, like, because I've had that window, like things are good in terms of preparation and lining it up, right? No one's going to get screwed out of their money. If things can't happen, we'll postpone it. We'll do it again later. If you got to cancel, you have to, but most people don't. But in terms of a buyer action, I think it's been really interesting. And anyone who's in the space knows that like you see these like waves of people signing up for stuff. With this year's trip, when I dropped it in February, like the discussion around COVID was minimal, like almost non-existent, although it should have been. And about 200 people signed up in like the first week or so. And then COVID just started coming in strong, right? So then people were like, instead of just booking, they were asking me questions like, hey, bro, got to know this, X, Y, and Z. Like, how is this working? And so there's like that hesitation, which is natural, right? Because if I knew the trip organizer, I would do the same thing. Like, hey, what's going on? So always putting on the client hat. But the interest is there. And I think what's unique about our demographic is we have folks that are not buying as quickly as they would now, but they are waiting for that first sign that, oh, outside's going to be open, right? Because if all of a sudden everything's good to go, it's going to be a mad rush, whatever that time of the year is. But the good thing is I did take the precaution and buy out the hotel this year. So all 295 rooms are available to us. So I have the ability to sort of expand and contract based upon what the demand is. So we'll be good either way.
You bought out the whole resort.
Yeah. Well, I didn't buy it out. We at CDE, like you and everyone else that's been on the trip, we bought it out together.
CDE has the whole resort. Hence, hashtag buyout. So we got a question too from Shy Life that says, is there an age limit?
Is there an age limit? Age limit, I would say, is 21 and up. I think the range has really been from like 21 to, we had somebody that was on it that was like in the 50s. I'm not gonna hold you. We had somebody in the 50s, but for the most part, like 23 to 33, and late 20s is like the average. So yeah, I would say late 20s, but like if you're a fun person, like age is a mindset. Like I'm 30, I turned 33 this year. A bunch of the homies that are older than me are on the trip. Like, again, I make everything on the islands available to you. I make it available to you. You choose what you want to do. Like, age is not, it should be your last concern.
The real Jew is right. If you're younger than 21, take your butt to Disney.
Or Miami.
Yes. Are you ever looking for partnerships with people? What if people want to like get connected and like bring their brand or maybe their corporate company like to help out with CDE? Are you ever interested in that?
I am extremely interested in that. It's sort of the next step for me in terms of the scaling and the growth process, bringing on more partnerships. I have had a lot of partnerships already, but much more so from personal connections and relationships, right? So it's, I know this person, we're working in this way, but now I am looking at, and you know, COVID obviously interrupted this, but with everyone's sort of budgets on freeze and pause, looking at ways to create more opportunities with sponsorships and partnerships. So if you have any ideas, don't hesitate to DM me. Some of the best partnerships have come from DMs, so hit me up.
And do you ever, I know you talked about this earlier, right? There's now a rise of other travel groups. Do you think that's competition to you, even though the people don't come to Antigua? Because I've never seen another trip come to Antigua.
I think there are a couple of ways of thinking about it, right? So what I think my personal motto and philosophy is, there are millions upon millions of Black travelers, billions of travelers overall. There is no way I can, nor do I have the desire to supply the needs for all of those people, right? I think we need diverse travel groups. I think we need people in different tiers. My network started with a lot of people from PWIs. There are networks that are exclusive to HBCUs, right? They're all different types, and there's so much diversity amongst the travelers that like get lumped into the Black traveler, that I think there's a lot of space for us to all play. And I personally have been a proponent of us working together because, frankly, I think we should come together, form a collective, get these corporate dollars because we'll have bigger numbers, we'll control the game, and then we can win. But if any of them speak, if any of the travel folks are listening, I hope they hear that and hit me up, because really serious about this partnership stuff. I don't view them as competition. I've been in my own lane. I've strategically been in my own lane, right? So staying in Antigua has been, to some, a curse, but to me, like, the biggest benefit, right? Because one, I get to perfect my craft, understand the space and environment that I'm working in, make that product really good. Two, my goal is about building up Antigua, so I don't really need to go anyplace else. But then I think, to your point, I think folks have now like sort of like avoided Antigua to some extent, or not necessarily avoided, because for me, it's like, don't avoid it. Like, I want you to do this. Like, let me make it easier for you. So I've also
Right.
started reaching out to folks and letting them know, like, hey, these opportunities are there. This is not exclusive to me, but, you know, folks have their opinions. They're like, oh, I don't want to do that because I feel like it's already this person's thing. That's not the way I
Got
think
it.
about it. So Antigua is for us.
And so I just got a DM from a person. They want to remain anonymous, but they said, if I'm a Caucasian person, can I still come to CDE?
All right. So when I say CDE is for everybody, I didn't mean every black body. I didn't mean every Ivy League body. I'm saying CDE is for everybody. It's an introduction to an island. So if you like beaches, if you like white sand, blue water, cool people, drinks, music, like CDE is for you. I feel ridiculous saying, oh, we have white people that come on the trip, because that feels like I have a black friend. But yes, there are people that aren't black that are on the trip that have been for two of them for 4 years in a row now. And they keep coming back because they have an amazing time. One of the things that I would love to figure out how to do is diversify my clientele, right? So like have some offerings. I know I'm doing some stuff with weddings. I had a white classmate of mine from high school interested in that, but you know, his parents ended up moving away from a destination wedding. But white people are absolutely welcome.
Love it. And what advice would you give to people who, let's say, want to start a travel business like you, right? Like they're from, is it Guyana? I know it's another place. There's
Yeah.
a bunch of different like islands, like,
Yep.
right? Like if they're from there and they want to start their own travel group, what advice would you give to them to get started to bring more money to that economy?
Ooh, it's always so hard. I would say, think about your network. Your network is your net worth, right? So for me, my success is not about just me having the most work ethic or me just having this incredible event experience that no one else in the world has. It's really about understanding who my network is, leveraging that, introducing them to one another, because there may not be a synergy between you and someone else, but you know someone else that they might be a great fit for, and you introduce them to each other in Guyana or in St. Kitts or St. Vincent, wherever that other place is. But really putting your island, your home country's best foot forward, and then creating an experience that is so unique, so custom that people feel special, people feel compelled, right? Because then people don't necessarily remember everything that they did at CDE, but they remember how
Hmm.
they felt, and how they felt is why they keep coming back.
Love that, how they felt. And we got another question too that says, how is the mix of the celebrities or influencers, I would say, with the regular common folk? We all want people, but you know, labels.
Yeah, yeah. I would say it's just like the mix of influencers with influencers or regular folks with regular folks, right? Some people are more friendly and they want to be in the mix and they want to be around, and others aren't, right? So we had about, 15 influencers or so. And some of them, people didn't even know they were influencers because they were in the mix that much. And then others, like, they took the opportunity to be on vacation, right? For me, our demographic, I don't think is super pressed to have, certain types of performances or hosts. So like the influencer piece for me wasn't really about entertaining that much, but it was more so about just being here and having the experience that they wanted to have, particularly because my pockets weren't very deep. So I couldn't like necessarily pay traditional expenses. Like, hey, look, I can do a vacation for you and a +1, like pull up, come have a good time. And I'm going to limit what I ask you to do, right? I just want you to come have a good time. Yeah. So the mix is based upon who wants to do what, because there are influencers that are, I'll give you an example. One influencer, she got added to the trip 5 hours before her flight left Los Angeles.
Wow.
So I had one influencer on the line, and he was supposed to come. Something happened, and she had hit me up, and I was like, hey, this person canceled last minute. I feel like I can make this thing work for you. And she was like, what time's the flight? 11? I bet. She was on the plane. She had all her themed outfits ready to go. She was in the mix, having a great time.
Wow.
Already hit me about coming back. Like, I don't put labels on people because people are people.
Yep.
So people are going to go for the vibe that they want.
Mm-hmm. Agree. And how can people stay connected with you? How can people stay updated about what's going on for CDE or events post?
Yeah. Easiest way is to follow me on IG right here. Collin Devon Events, COLLINDEVONEVENTS. And then you can follow the link in my bio to go to CDEantigua.com to either register for the trip because you're interested now, or you can just drop your information there so you can be on the listserv and stay up to date on things that are happening. But for the most part, most of my information is released via IG with an email follow-up later. So IG is the fastest way to stay informed.
And what drives you, right? What keeps you so motivated to keep doing this trip, to bring quality, to bring people together? What makes you so hungry? Because I know you have your other job, and I'm sure the senior director is something that's not like making $10,000 a year, right? So like, what makes you want to keep doing this?
Antiguan pride. I think part of one of the things, interestingly enough, growing up in New York is like a super melting pot, right? I didn't have like an American, like a Black American good friend, I think until like college, because all of the kids in my neighborhood were either from Africa someplace or someplace in the Caribbean, right? And being the kid who like was repping Antigua, everybody's like, yo, where's Antigua? What's that? Like, and I always had to explain what Antigua was. And I felt some type of way about that, right? It was like the little forgotten island. I was like, nah, like before I die, I'm putting Antigua on the map. People are going to pronounce it right. They're going to know where it is. They're going to know how many beaches we have. And here we are. So that's been a part of it. I think the other part is so much has come from this endeavor that I did not ask for, that I did not anticipate. And as much as I put into this, I think I'm receiving so much more in terms of opportunities, in terms of network, in terms of connections. It's just, I can't explain how much it's benefited me. So when something does that, it's like, why wouldn't you pour into this thing? Because the more I give it, the more it gives me. So that's also really important. And then I think, and I'm gonna try to say this without getting emotional. You talked about the struggle piece. The biggest struggle was I was supposed to graduate college in 2010, decided I wanted to get my PhD and didn't want to pay for a master's, right? I was broke, didn't want to pay for a master's. So I intentionally didn't graduate in 2010 so I can be in school for an extra year in 2011, take all the master's classes as though I got a master's, and then get into a PhD program that wouldn't accept me otherwise by sort of finessing a master's degree without paying for it, right? But my parents had this plan of moving back to Antigua, and they left in 2010 when I was supposed to graduate. 2011, I do graduate. I fly down to Antigua, and within a month of graduating, my mom passes from cancer. So she isn't a part of this dream, all the things that she wanted to sort of see, right? She went to America for me to get my education, and she didn't see, she wasn't at the graduation, she wasn't at the PhD graduation, because she passed from cancer, which could have been cured if I had the network, if I had the resources to get her into the US. Because she was in Antigua and I didn't have the resources to get her into the US, the treatment couldn't be done. However, my network within the US was so crazy that my friends' parents are neurosurgeons. I have prophytes. I'm an alpha. I have prophytes that are neurosurgeons that are willing to do surgeries for free, right? Like literally can do whatever. And for me, I didn't want any other child to have to experience what I had to experience, right? My mom being shipped to Trinidad, me flying there shortly after just to see her take her last breath there. because I didn't have the access, the connections, the resources to do something more for her. So I just never want to feel helpless, and I want to be able to help other people. So bigging up my country through tourism, which does a lot of the work in terms of our economy, just seemed like the best way for me to do so.
It's a deep-rooted reason. It's very, very deep-rooted. I'm sorry to hear about your mom. And did you ever get a chance? And I know recently you went back to Trinidad, didn't you?
Yeah. So opportunities that keep popping out of nowhere. I was at CDE this year working with someone, Tennille, a publicist that is based out of Trinidad. And we were just talking about CDE and marketing in the Caribbean. And she's like, wait a minute, are you coming to Trinidad Carnival? And I was like, well, I don't have the time off from work, X, Y, and Z. The time gets approved from work. I hit her up like a week before Carnival. I'm like, hey, I know it's a little late in the game. And she's like, Colin, I told you, I got you. Went to Trinidad Carnival for the first time, the Mecca of Carnivals. Definitely took notes, learned a lot, got a lot of tricks up my sleeve for CDE stuff. But Trinidad was amazing. I told myself I wasn't going back until I can have an experience that sort of made up for my last experience there. And it was everything that I needed. Of course, there were hiccups like there always are, but being there, mostly not on my own dime, having that experience, like running into so many CDE people out there, like it was incredible.
And I always round out these lives, right, by asking people who is being great in your life, because birds of a feather flock together, right? We're not the only person being great around us. We're always around positive people who are supporting, uplifting us, or doing great things. So I want you to shout out not just one, but anybody who's on the top of your mind right now, who's being great and who's around you, who's being successful, or even just being like a support system for you.
Yeah. I would say that's probably the hardest question, like, because it's so many. So when you think about like what keeps me hungry, I'm like, my team is so strong. Like the people that I'm around, they're so focused, so motivated. They're always doing big things. And it's just like, I'm the type of person that like, I can get complacent if I'm around sort of other people that aren't striving, but like I'm competitive. So it's like, oh, nah, word, you just got the Twitter gig, or you just got the gig at Microsoft. Like, nah, what's my next thing? What am I gonna do? Or you just bought a home, or you just got that condo. And it's like, what's the next thing, right? So I would say anyone that's helped create and helped build this to where it is. So my photographer, Tayo Jr. and Araba and Kuma, Anetta, Shavi and Annie, like doing their thing in Antigua. DJ Jime on the event scene, DJ Quest and Mix on the music scene. Just all the dope creatives, right? Like photographers, that people that have put up last minute, like really just care about their craft, put the time and dedication in, and then support one another, because I think that support piece is what makes all the difference, is what makes these relationships meaningful and lasting, and what keeps us connected and binding in like this world that we're learning is more and more global.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. And thank you so much too, Colin, for coming on the live. Ever since I met you two, you've always been so supportive. So happy too, even being down there, right? I know you're running around probably stressed out during these trips, but like every time I see you, you're making sure, is everybody okay? What's going on? And I think you're very genuine, you're authentic. And I think that shines through, and why so many people come on the trip and come back, right? So I'm so glad that you were able to showcase your journey, your struggles, be transparent about a lot of things on this live, plus like just how people can get connected, right? I mean, I know I'm supportive about it. I think everybody should go to Antigua and go back, because it's such a great experience. It's one like no other, too, that I can't compare it to anything else. So make sure you guys go and sign up. Not even just a marketing plug, but just for real, you'll meet people and friends who will change your life. So you should definitely go. But thank you so much, Colin, for coming on the live.
BG, thank you for having me. I really appreciate you. I'm going to shout out one person real quick. Mega, shout out to you. The artwork that you have in the background. I saw that the guy that took those photos, he just dropped the Antigua flag a couple of times in the chat. So appreciate you, bro. Just always thankful for everyone that's contributed.
And thank you for everyone too that's tuned in and that's been listening and commenting. Literally, it makes this live like so much more fun. and to add some more comments and questions. This is awesome. But Colin, I'll save this, and then it goes on YouTube and IGTV. You know everything. And if you want this video, I'll send it to you.
Bet. Please do that. Please do that. And anybody with questions, don't hesitate. Shoot me a DM. Let me know what concerns you have, any questions. And hopefully I'll see you all in Antigua at some point. Bless.
All right.